Welcome to the Arsenal analysis. We are fresh off whatever the heck that was that we just watched. Arsenal, third game of the season. Arsenal won, Brighton won at the Emirates. Um, Really terrible, terrible, terrible game. Nothing that you'd ever want to watch again. And I think honestly, Arsenal fans at this point are we just don't want to watch football for another 2 weeks. Thank God that the international break is coming up because I turned it off. I turned it off halfway through the second half, right after Kai Havertz had that stumbling, bumbling moment in the box. Had a breakaway, couldn't finish it. Saka followed him up. Ball came to him, and he just tripped over his legs in the Brighton box. But that was a little bit indicative of what Arsenal produced on the pitch today. Just not good enough. And gave the corrupt PGMOL an opportunity to showcase their incompetence. I tend to err on the side of incompetence in these cases. It's just people that don't understand the game and don't understand the product that the Premier League puts out um, that are just in charge of, for some ludicrous reason, they have the power to make decisions in this league. And it's just a disgrace, and it needs to be fixed. If I was in the United Kingdom right now, what I would be doing is I would be setting up a big video recorder right outside of PGMOL, and I'd be showing that the João Pedro um, kick away when the ball went out in the first half, first few minutes of the first half. Ball goes out. Arsenal are pressing. Ball goes out around the midway line. He's chasing after it, trying to get a counter attack. Ball goes out. He kicks it halfway down the pitch towards Raya's goal when Arsenal could have picked up the ball and put pressure back on Brighton. It's the same offense for which Declan Rice was sent off. It's the same offense. At that point, the directive was leniency against Declan Rice. The faintest of touches, um, bags and bags of plausible deniability on his part. The ball had hit him in the back. Like the decision to send him off at that point after getting clattered by the player, which is again like when we look closer at the video, a lot of folks are saying online that the ball was still rolling, so it wouldn't have been a legal free kick in the first place. So if the referee had used some restraint, that might have been a foul on Brighton. I think it was Veltman at that point that did that. It's just ridiculous applications of arbitrary rules that are not rules because they're only rules when they're applied um, consistently, and everyone understands them. It was a handball in the box in the first half, a Ben White shot from the corner of the box, at least 15, 20 meters away from where Dunk was stood. The ball was going towards the goal. It was going goal. It was almost goal bound. And Dunk is standing there with his arms, perhaps in a natural position, but he's 15 feet away, 15 meters away at least. It, it's his responsibility to not use his arm to handle the ball. He had an opportunity to get his arm out of the way. He chose not to. He had enough time to make the decision. The judgment for all of these cases is extremely questionable. And again, the rules are applied against Arsenal in a different way. Um, I'm not one of these people that tries to look for objectivity. Objectivity does not exist, especially in real life, and for sure not at the highest levels of sport. Objectivity is a chimera. It's something that you chase, but it's never something that can be achieved. And so once you can admit that it's impossible to be objective, you have to start looking at how the decisions were handed down. And it was clear, as is always the case in these types of matches, there's a certain give and take between the team that is deemed the most dominant team and the team that is deemed the lower level team. Usually, in this case, Brighton playing that role could be any kind of lower team down the table, rivalries, different things like that. Referees take different approaches to different teams, to different atmospheres. And that's exactly what was happening for that João Pedro kick away. The referee was basically saying, "Listen, this it's early in the game. We're not going to apply the rules here in all effect." And in the Rice chance in the Rice opportunity to give a yellow card, knowing that the player's on a yellow card, he's made a grave error in judgment. And it's killed the game and it's killed the product. It's killed the product. This is the thing I want to hammer home. The Premier League is killing its own product by putting out these referees that don't understand their own game. Um, and it as long as they continue to get engagements over this, I think a lot of folks say, well, negative engagement is great as well. That generates clicks, that generates a lot of interest. But is that I would argue that the Premier League became great not because of controversy, but because of displaying the highest quality talent with the highest level of parity in Europe. And that's the way that they made themselves relevant. Also, a bunch of financial cash that they were able to spread around, whereas Europe doesn't have that level of capability. But this you bring the talent and you showcase that talent. This is just ruining the essence of what the game is supposed to be, what the Premier League is supposed to be. Um, it's just really disappointing. Brighton are a great team. I was really looking forward to a back and forth game. The great defenders on both sides, great attackers on both sides. I, Brighton is one of those games every year where I look forward to it because they play football, and they're a great team and they know how to link passes together and play well. This was nothing of the sort. And once you kill the game like that, Arsenal just goes back into its shell. We defend well, mostly. There were a few chances there, but we gave away the goal, 10 minutes after the red card. It was over. I called it as soon as that red card happened. I said 1-1 in my group chat. It was over. So it's a really, really disappointing. Again, there's a few of these every year for Arsenal. It seems like, I know other teams feel aggrieved. Arsenal feels aggrieved. Um, but it's just not the way that you want to sell your product. Let's talk about it in those terms because this is a product that we're trying to sell. Who wants to watch a game like that other than the title rivals who are just who are rooting for not only six red cards and three injuries. Um, that being said, the thing that you want to clarify is that Arsenal did not play well in this game. We got a goal off of a chance there. Brighton almost taking advantage of the fact that they thought that the referees were on their side and they were going to get an offside or some type of foul in that situation. Seems like they just kind of laxed for 2 seconds. Saka, credit to him, took advantage of it, and Kai Havertz, to his credit, was able to loop it over the goalkeeper. But it was a goal out of nothing. We had created chances in the beginning. Then we kind of went into our shell. There was a large period of the second half there where basically Brighton had the majority of the possession. They were pressing, and we, once we had gotten the goal, we basically went back into our shell again, which this team tends to do. We trust our defense immensely. Um, After that terrible, dealing with, I'm one of Gabriel Magalhaes' biggest fans. I love the way that he plays with passion and desire and loves to defend. And I think he's vastly underrated against next to Saliba. Um, but so weak against Welbeck on that that ball through, and Welbeck was able to get a couple bites of the cherry. Saliba passive, Partey passive on the follow. You can't defend like that with 10 men and expect to get away with it. It's just it has to be every man to the decks, and a complete commitment if you're going to get away with 3 points at that point. As it stands, they made that mistake and then they solidified, which we were capable of doing because we have so many defenders. Arsenal has so many defenders. We brought on Calafiori, we brought on Timber was injured, we were bringing more and more. Um, just incredible. the way that this team contrives to lose and draw matches from the jaws of victory. And it's just infuriating. Odegaard today, special mention, terrible. Um, Odegaard getting on the ball a couple times, he seemed to dwindle on the ball. Took a couple of insecure touches. Thinking too much, then tries to play it off. No conviction in the passes, gets intercepted. Not able to turn. Not He had one good moment in the second half, trying to weave his way through the box like he likes to do. No one there on the follow because Kai Havertz isn't a striker, so he's not making that near post run that Odegaard needed at that point. He's hiding in the back post. Kai Havertz, great great goal on the beginning, on the first goal, but he's again away on goal. Great job to get in that position, but do you trust him to make that finish? No. And there's at least three or four or five strikers in this league that you would trust to make that finish. And he's not one of them. And then he just fell over. He just fell over on the ball. How many times have you seen that from a professional footballer? Like, I understand that Kai Havertz is being able to produce, but it's coupled with some of these moments here that he just does not seem like he understands how to attack a goal. If it's not just kind of served on a plate for him. Um, and that's really worrying. Especially as we failed to bring in a striker during the transfer window. Jesus is injured. Havertz is unconvincing. Who else will play there? We've let Nketiah go. Nketiah was not the answer, but this was a prime opportunity for Arsenal to bring in reinforcements, and they failed to do that. Um, and no one can convince us that there aren't better options out there than Raheem Sterling. Or if we're letting Nketiah go, there's a striker out there that's better than Nketiah that we can bring in. Um, that integrates with the team because, as I said in our last video, we understand that there are things that we need to do to integrate better with the team. It's not just, oh, this guy looks good on a highlight reel. Oh, this guy bagged, 16 goals and 5 assists last year in the Dutch league. Bring him in. It's not about that. It's about we need to find someone that can play Champions League minutes, Premier League minutes, Europa, League Cup minutes, FA Cup minutes. We're already two injuries in, 3 games in, two injuries. Timber and and Marino. Jesus. Odegaard looked hobbled today after that challenge, which again, we've seen those given. The player follows through and goes studs up on a player's standing leg. We've seen those. We've seen those given. So the rules were applied in a very lax manner towards Brighton, and the rules were applied in a capriciously vicious way to Arsenal. Um, and but Arsenal gave the referee the chance to dominate the game. And when you do that, when you sit off and you decide to be passive, this is something that Arteta still has not realized. There is a tax involved. Arsenal cannot do what Chelsea did under Mourinho, cannot do what Conte did at Chelsea, cannot play this defense counterattack game because it's too risky. We've gotten away with it, the last couple of years, but that's at the expense of attack. And there are certain games where we need to win 3-2 instead of 1-0. And we can't win 1-0 when that one goal margin gives the referee the opportunity to throw all of your good work down the drain. So the margins are too thin. And we still don't understand that. Um, Trossard came into the starting lineup after his clinical finish last game. He did an okay job, but unfortunately, I don't think he did enough to put to make himself the regular starter. I think Martinelli is in with a shout for the North London Derby coming up. Um, I think Gabriel Magalhaes, as we said, really such such weak defending on that through pass with Danny Welbeck, Saliba passive. Um, Saka gets an assist, producing as always, but there's still not enough fluidity in order for everything to go through. And Declan Rice does not look good at the left eight. This is a team screaming out for something more positive going forward, someone with more ideas, someone with more comfort on the ball, facing goal, picking out passes. Declan Rice is not that guy, and he's in the team with Partey, and Partey's playing at the six. So we're basically sacrificing another attacker in order to have defensive solidity, but then we're sending Declan Rice up the field. And this is one of the things that I wanted to mention about the two incidents that had Declan Rice sent off. The first one, he's up pressing, trying to win a ball because that's his responsibility. That's his area of the pitch. When he's playing the left eight, he's responsible for pressing up towards that attacker in that point. He was trying to win the ball and spark a counter attack. That's the role that the left eight plays. He believed that he could get there, but he couldn't get there, and it was a yellow card rightfully. However, why is Declan Rice in that position pushing up? He doesn't have the speed or agility to kind of get there, and he's got to come in with a crunching tackle if he wants to win that ball, and that's a high risk, high reward tackle. Those look great when he's running back towards his own goal and trying to defend and being the last line of defense. That is forgivable. But all he's trying to do is spark a counterattack, and he's giving away a yellow card. So not very smart there. Um, and then you're on a yellow. There, the referee is at fault for being incompetent and for not applying the rules how they need to be applied. But Declan Rice needs to understand what his situation is. And again, why is he up on the left side, left corner of the pitch? What is he doing over there? He can't put in crosses. He can't, dribble around someone, beat a fullback. Why is he occupying that space? He was over there to kind of dribble around or to try to play a couple rondos with a couple of Arsenal attackers that had been pushed into that small space. He's not the player that you want in there. And so we lose the ball. There's a foul, and then he's there instead of being back where he needs to be, defending the result of what that free kick was going to be. A big ball towards the center of the pitch where he can use his height and strength and defensive know-how to try to deal with that situation. He's all the way up the pitch. If we're gonna play two defensive mids, let them play defensive mid. Push someone else up. Um, and again, this is part of getting used to being on the Arsenal team. You don't get away with that stuff anymore. The rules are applied differently. You have to be the goodest boy in the whole town and give flowers to your grand on Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Like you cannot do that kind of thing. Ben White and Kai Havertz have this kind of like tricky maliciousness to them, but Declan Rice is not a good liar. He doesn't get away with that stuff. And there were times when he was at West Ham when he could get away with that stuff because the feeling of the aggrievedness of the um a side lower down the league against a larger team, you could get away with that chippiness. But at Arsenal, no, that is not allowed. And he needs to realize this. But first of all, why is he there? Second of all, he's got to know better. He's on a yellow. He's, you know, England captain. You got to know better. He's got to be the goodest boy. He plays for Arsenal. He doesn't play for Tottenham. He doesn't play for Manchester United. He's not going to get away with that stuff. He needs to realize what he's signed up for. Um, and then just it's not a foul. It's not a yellow card. The ball is supposedly moving. They're not going to look at it. A yellow card is unreviewable. Um, the narrative already out there is Brighton fought back. after a silly mistake from Declan Rice, and that's going to be the narrative. So this is why like the YouTube community and commenters and posters and all this kind of stuff. This is why we're screaming out to have more channels like this one to do more of this type of analysis because we're not going to see it on TV. And we are, instead of watching more Premier League this weekend, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit. I'm going to try find something else to do with my life. You can understand your team losing a hard fought game to a good team. That's great. But when they just throw the product in the trash like this, it makes it impossible to enjoy. And that is why I think a lot of Arsenal fans, and there's a lot of us, will not be watching Premier League this weekend, and that means less revenue from the Premier League. So it's time to shape up. It's time to figure out how to referee a game correctly. It's time to have referees that have spent time in the game as players and as coaches and as managers and as people that understand the ebb and flow of what makes a professional football game great. And it's time for that accountability to be leveled against these incompetent referees because that could have been the title today. That could be the title. The title last year was within 2 points. The game was 1-0 to the Arsenal. There was a refereeing decision, an incorrect refereeing decision, an application of the rules capriciously and without warrant, and now Arsenal is 2 points behind. That's what the effect of this is. So really, really difficult day, and um, it's a good thing that there's an international break because Arsenal can just kind of stew on this for a while, and get right up for the North London derby. No Rice, he's suspended. No Marino, he's injured. Will Timber play? Are we going to be starting Zinchenko on the North London derby? We've left ourselves short. An egregious malpractice of available resources during the transfer window. It's already peak. It's already peak. We're 3 games in, and it already feels like we're behind the eight. We're not only behind the eight ball, we're behind the 7 ball. We're behind the 6 ball. We're behind the 5 ball. This is not good. And we need to find some inspiration. Instead of coming in as a backup, Raheem Sterling is going to come in and try to save Arsenal. Just think about that. Just think about that. Raheem Sterling will be starting. Sterling is your starting left winger. So a lot of folks are pretty perturbed about that signing, but if it weren't from Chelsea and if he wasn't on that wage and if it wasn't, that he had come from City and Chelsea and Liverpool and we're just like the fourth in line of this human centipede, um, I think actually he's a good player. I think there's an argument to be made. He might have been the best winger available in the transfer market. We have Kingsley Coman out there, a couple of up and comers, but in terms of availability, he might have been the best one. Um, and he might have to come in and save us, which is not something you want. A City, Liverpool, City, Chelsea reject to be doing on loan. Um, but we'll see how he progresses. I hope he gets up to speed relatively quickly. He's going to need to because we're going to need some goals and we're going to need some pace and we're going to need some attacking threat and we're going to need some balls on a plate for Kai Havertz because he can't make his own chances. Um, so he and Saka, if they can work in tandem, with Odegaard, needs to be vastly improved as we go forward, or if anything's going to go well. So just an infuriating third game of the season, if you can even call it that. And it goes without saying, we are now behind, and things need to change. There needs to be solutions found, because this is not the way we wanted to start. And you know, I think I think we're not even talking about City anymore. It's almost Liverpool that you feel on your heels as the potential kind of second place finisher of this league with the way it's going. So big changes need to be made. Infuriating day. Um, Go do something else, Gunners. Go do something else with your day. Figure out something else to do, because we don't need to watch this. We don't deserve to watch this. And I just hope we can get some comeuppance for the North London derby, and then City to kind of, if we can get results there, wins there, wins there. That will be the way to jumpstart this title campaign again. Wins at the North London derby and a win at City. Um, Seems impossible to do, but that's what needs to happen now. Enjoy the rest of your day if you can. This is your Arsenal analysis.